I took every drug known to man at the same time to stimulate every corner of my brain. And this was the result.
What's good, nerds? How's everybody doing? Welcome to the Movie Mass. It is I, your brother, the Honorable His Holiness Movie Monk Jay, the Bishop of Bull Moose. I took a little trip to Bull Moose yesterday, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. Today, I want to continue on boldly, stupidly, because I got shit for views on the last one, but I don't care. I'm shooting myself in the foot over here. I don't give a shit. I want to continue on stupidly, hard-headedly with the Samurai July related content. Now, as you guys already know, Barnes & Noble is having a 50% off sale. They're 50% off all their prices on Criterions, which makes them quite reasonable for this month. And of course, Amazon is price matching. So, you know, if you got an Amazon gift card or you don't have a Barnes & Noble nearby, you can order from barnesandnoble.com as well. They honor the prices on their website. Amazon matches. So really, you're getting good deals on Criterions this month is what I'm trying to tell you. But a lot of people do wonder this time of year, like, what movies should I load up on? And sometimes people even ask me, they say, Jay, you've been buying Criterion movies for 25 years and you have a prodigious Criterion collection. Can you tell me some of the titles that you love? And yes, I can. In fact, if it involves me talking, then yes, I can absolutely do that for you. I've done a few videos on this topic in the past. You can go back and look. I've got at least 2, maybe 3 Criterion recommendation videos over the past, I don't know, year and a half or so. So you can go check those out if you haven't seen those and you want some recommendations. But today, your recommendations, the recommendations that I'm giving you are samurai films. Now, I think Radiance is doing their best to give Criterion a run for their money, but for a long time, I mean, probably a quarter of a decade or more, Criterion really has been like the English language, US domestic home for samurai films. I mean, yeah, other companies have released samurai films over the years, but not to the degree that Criterion has. I think if you're a big samurai film fan, then chances are you got a good number of Criterions in your collection, even if they're just the samurai films. The first one is probably the foremost one. It is very difficult to say that you love samurai films if you are not familiar with the 7 Samurai. So Criterion has a 4K that I think they put out about a year ago. So the 4K has been available. So get your ass to a Barnes & Noble. Do what I did, because this is what I did a year ago when it first came out. I took my ass to a Barnes & Noble and I got the 7 Samurai 4K for 50% off. I think it cost me like 30 bucks. It's a 3-disc set. The movie's on 4K, the movie's on Blu-ray. There's a whole 3rd disc of Blu-ray special features. There is a large booklet. It's over 50 pages, I believe, with several essays. They really kind of went all out. Slipcase. It's a very nice presentation. And the movie looks great. I was just watching it, I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago to get like hyped up for Samurai July. And the movie does look, I mean, I previously had owned it on DVD. So, you know, it looks way better on 4K, on a modern television, on a Panasonic player. So for you samurai film fans out there, I'm not saying that 7 Samurai has to be your favorite movie. It's not my favorite either, but I think we can all agree that it's an important film in the way that, like, Citizen Kane is an important film. I don't know anybody whose favorite film is Citizen Kane, but I think we all agree that it's an important film. Like, historically, it's meaningful, it's significant. So if you're gonna call yourself a cinephile and you haven't seen Citizen Kane, that's a bit of a problem. Okay, you got to get your bona fides up. Same thing with 7 Samurai. So you got to go watch it. Go to Barnes & Noble, go get it, go watch it, come back and talk to me then, okay? Then you can come back and talk. Now, I'm going to just keep rolling with Akira Kurosawa recommendations, and I'm going to recommend for you, the one that I'm getting this month, is the Yojimbo and Sanjuro combo pack. There's a 2-film set. Nice little 2-film box set. Criterion's actually been releasing it since the DVD days. I have the DVDs up there that I got probably 20 plus years ago. It's sort of like boxing a fistful of dollars and for a few dollars more together. It makes sense, right? It's part 1 and part 2. So you can get a good deal on that. I think that's normally 80 bucks at Barnes & Noble, like crazy, but $40 for both films. That's $20 each for 2 4K Kurosawa films. And these are, I think, tremendously important films as well. Maybe not as foundational as The Seven Samurai, but definitely important films because of their influence later on. I mentioned A Fistful of Dollars and For a Few Dollars More, and these were obviously, so obviously influenced by Yojimbo that Akira Kurosawa sued Sergio Leone for remaking his film like unauthorized. And most people agree that he did kind of rip him off. I mean, Quentin Tarantino's made a whole career of doing that now, and no one sued his ass yet. If Akira Kurosawa were still around, who knows, he might. I find Yojimbo and Sanjuro are, they're maybe a little bit more fun. They're less grand and epic and operatic than The Seven Samurai. They're shorter films and a little bit more like action-focused, action-oriented. But I think if you enjoy the spaghetti westerns, you enjoy A Fistful of Dollars, you can't consider yourself an expert until you've seen the source material, and Yojimbo definitely is that. So go pick up Yojimbo, Sanjuro. Those are going to be an easy 2-pack, 2 more movies to add to the collection. Save some money on those. The next one that I'm going to recommend is another box set of multiple films, this time 7, I think it's 7 films in the Lone Wolf and Cub series. Now, the Lone Wolf and Cub series is a little bit less of a commitment than the Zatoichi series. Zatoichi, of course, is something like 25 films, so it's like 3 times, almost 4 times the number of films in the Lone Wolf and Cub series, and the Zatoichi set is going to cost much more as a result. I mean, if you really want me to recommend Zatoichi, go ahead. I recommend Zatoichi. Go grab Zatoichi. If you're gonna buy Zatoichi, that big box set, I mean, this is the month to buy it anyway, because you're gonna save 50% on it. You don't wanna buy that at full retail, is what I'm trying to tell you. Get that thing when it's on sale. Now, Lone Wolf and Cub, as well as Zatoichi, those are both only available on Blu-ray currently. They're not available as 4Ks. Now, whether or not Criterion will eventually upgrade those, I believe that they will. I think pretty much every boutique, but especially Criterion and Arrow, are eventually going to upgrade every single thing that they've got. Every license that they have will be upgraded to 4K. It's inevitable, and yet we might be waiting a little while for Zatoichi and Lone Wolf and Cub. But both of those series are fun. They're filled with fun action, ludicrous fights. They're influential on more recent, like late 90s, early 2000s stuff. Kill Bill, I think he has cited Lone Wolf and Cub, Lady Snowblood, Zatoichi type, more like over-the-top melodrama and just kind of crazy twists and turns, being a lot less realistic and a lot more grindhousey than Kurosawa's work. These are a little bit more lurid. They're less artsy, more like stabby in the top of the head if you watch Lone Wolf and Cub. There's like day-glow arterial blood fountains that shoot up, and there's a lot of good nudity sprinkled in the Lone Wolf and Cubs. And I'm not just talking about a toddler walking around with his butt hanging out. I'm talking about adult ladies for the adult men that are watching Lone Wolf and Cub. They get buck naked too at many times, so you're welcome. Lone Wolf and Cub is a lot of fun. You can save a lot of money on Lone Wolf and Cub, and like I said, it's like 7 movies, so it's like 10 hours worth of films right there for whatever the heck you're gonna pay for. Maybe I should look that up. Lone Wolf and Cub is only $50 this month at Barnes & Noble. That is a box set of 7 films for $50. That ain't too shabby, y'all. That's not bad at all for about 10 hours of entertainment. There's a bonus movie on there, Shogun Samurai. And so you can't go wrong with Lone Wolf and Cub. The Zatoichi set is only $100 this month. That's not terrible either. $100 for 9 discs. How many movies are in there? It's like 25 movies. Oh, I'm not counting all those. It's like 25 movies. So seriously, for $150, you can get like 32 movies, 33 movies, and countless hours. I mean, like several days worth of like nonstop marathoning. So something to think about. Now, the next one I'm going to recommend to you is one of my favorites. It's for a long time been at the top of my favorite heap of samurai films, and that is 1966's Sword of Doom, starring Tatsuya Nakadai. And Sword of Doom was the first part of a trilogy. There were supposed to be 2 more movies that came after. They were never produced. I don't know if Sword of Doom just wasn't successful enough that they didn't produce part 2 and 3, but the fact is, part 1 ends with a bit of a cliffhanger, which, if you have a part 2 to pop in right after, it's not that bad, knowing that the story is going to be resolved. But I remember the first time watching this with my younger brother, and the movie just kind of ends. Like, it is at its climax, shit is absolutely popping off, and then freeze frame, the end. And I do remember, I was prepared for that. Like, I knew that was coming. My brother was like, what in the fuck, people? Like, it was the cinematic equivalent of Blue Balls. So Sword of Doom is like sort of Blue Balls, kind of. It's still a great movie. It's unfortunate it never progressed past its first entry, but at the same time, go into it expecting it to just end, kind of cliffhanger, no real resolution, but that's not what you're here for, okay? It's beautifully filmed. It's a beautifully shot film. It's got tons of great action. It really is almost the perfect synthesis of really action-packed jidaigeki stuff that was gonna come with a Lone Wolf and Cub a couple years later. So, mid-60s, we were kind of already a little bit historically past that more austere Seven Samurai stuff. And we were moving in the 60s, moving into more grindy, housey stuff, the big red fountains and the really kind of insane swordplay, people getting cut in half and stuff like that. That was like more like early 70s shit. We were like almost there. We were at the precipice of that. So I think Sword of Doom, at least in my mind, really represents this kind of changeover from the older artistic ways of Seven Samurai and the really just over-the-top, lurid, violent ways of something like Lone Wolf and Cub. So I think, there's a black and white cinematography in Sword of Doom, so it's sort of visually what you would expect from those older samurai film fits in really nicely with the black and white stuff of the earlier decades. And yet the style is definitely getting more of, let's show the guy cutting up a whole bunch of people. Let's show the action. Let's get the pulse pounding. So I really feel like Sword of Doom is almost, maybe the reason why it's one of my favorites is because it is almost the best balanced samurai film between like really just fun, visceral action, people getting their hands chopped off, people holding their necks while blood sprays, getting their faces slashed open, and also like really like beautiful film work. There's some parts where the main character is like walking through a room menacingly and the shadows falling over his face as he passes through the light. And it's just, there's some really incredible visuals to look at too from an artistic standpoint. So I really want to recommend highly Sword of Doom. It's on Blu-ray as well. I would expect a 4K of this at some point in Criterion's future because I do believe that like visually in terms of the photography, it most certainly deserves, and it is a wide frame. I mean, it comes late enough that you watch Seven Samurai, that is a 1.37 to 1 square aspect ratio like older films, pre-widescreen films tend to be. But Sword of Doom has that beautiful widescreen format. Next one I want to recommend also stars Tatsuya Nakadai, and this one has been a Criterion Collection staple for decades. I mean, I think they released this one on DVD at least 20 years ago, and that is Harakiri. And so this one has the same actor, the same main actor as Sword of Doom. Harakiri was about 4 years earlier than Sword of Doom. So I don't think it's going to be quite as like sword fighty and lurid as Sword of Doom and some of the later stuff is, but Harakiri does receive a ton of praise. I mean, if you're big into samurai stuff, then you already know, I don't need to tell you, that Harakiri receives a lot of praise. But if you're kind of new to the samurai genre and you're using this content that I'm producing this month as kind of a way to maybe dibble and dabble and kind of get your toes wet, then maybe you don't already know. But as you're looking this stuff up, if you're reading about this stuff on the internet or whatever, you're going to see a lot of people mentioning Harakiri as being, you know, it's probably mentioned right up there with Seven Samurai, that just kind of gets mentioned a lot as a Japanese film from, you know, a period, Chambara Japanese film from, you know, the early 60s that was tremendously influential. And I think that's what you have in Harakiri. And this one is also only available on Blu-ray, surprisingly. This is one that I'm waiting for Criterion to drop the 4K of Harakiri any day. I mean, it could happen. It could happen next week. I'm willing to bet this one's coming simply because I think Criterion did the Blu-ray for Harakiri, I don't know, back in like 2012 or something. So the Blu-ray for Harakiri has been out forever. It was one of their really early kind of Blu-ray conversions. They did that within the first couple of years. So I wouldn't be surprised if they, you know, use this. It's been a while since they've re-released Harakiri, and so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a re-release of this one, just because it's been so long. Now, the next one I want to recommend is 3 Outlaw Samurai, also on Blu-ray. No 4K of this one yet. I know it's difficult for us. I'm a 4K guy, so it is hard for me. This is Hideo Gosha's very first film, and Hideo Gosha has done a ton of samurai stuff. He's done Goyokin. He did Samurai Wolf films. Those are not Criterion, so these are not official recommendations right now. But Hideo Gosha is very well famous for directing. On top of the samurai films, he did direct several like Chambara Samurai, Jidaigeki. But he also directed a lot of like more modern day like Yakuza crime films as well. So he's got Hideo Gosha has several decades. I mean, decades of a career here, and this is his very first film, put out by Criterion way back in 2012 as well. So it's another one that could see an upgrade to 4K pretty soon because the Blu-ray is getting pretty long in the tooth, and no one's going to be upset with Criterion for upgrading something 15 years later. It's upgrading something 2 years, 3 years later, that's what pisses us off. Don't make me buy a Blu-ray now and then upgrade the shit next year, assholes. I've got 2 more recommendations for you guys, and these are going to be a little bit outside of the box. They're still Criterion Collections, of course, because I want you to get them on sale. But they're not Japanese films. They're not Chambara, nor are they really directly samurai films. These are evidence of the spread of samurai film, the influence of samurai film on later generations and other national cinemas. The first one is a French film by Jean-Pierre Melville. You already know what I'm about to say. It's Les Samouraï. I have recommended Les Samouraï in at least one of my previous Criterion recommendations. I cannot recommend Les Samouraï high enough. It is easily one of my top 10 absolute favorite Criterion releases. It is like a French crime thriller. It's very noirish. The photography is absolutely beautiful. It is a beautiful film to watch. To look at. You could almost put it on, like mute the thing and just have it going in the background. It's beautiful to look at. It is Jean-Pierre Melville's finest film, in my opinion. It is Alain Delon's finest film, in my opinion. I'm not going to go on and on about Les Samouraï. I think the biggest thing about Les Samouraï and its connection to this list is not just the name, but by calling it Les Samouraï and having a film that's basically a French crime thriller about a hitman. And he's not Japanese, and he's not a part of a karate dojo. I mean, he's got nothing. He doesn't even eat sushi in this whole movie. So he really doesn't interact with Japanese culture at all, except insofar as his kind of lone hitman character espouses what Jean-Pierre Melville and maybe more like French and Western culture conceived of samurai in the later 60s. I think Les Samouraï is, what, 67? I'm going off the top of my head with that, but it's like mid to late 60s is Les Samouraï. So filmmakers like Jean-Pierre Melville were well aware of the films, Kurosawa's films from the 50s, like Seven Samurai. I mean, they were very well aware of what Japan had been doing for the last 20 years with samurai films. And so then they sort of port these like stoic characters with these like hardline principles over to Western settings, and what you get is something like Les Samouraï. And I think Les Samouraï was extremely successful in co-opting that sort of like Bushido code, that sort of, at least the Western conception of like, what are the samurai about? What makes a samurai a samurai? I think the film was very successful in presenting that in an interesting, entertaining way. So do check out Les Samurai. It is definitely one of my highest Criterion recommendations. Such a good film. And then the one that I'm gonna end with, Ghost Dog. This is a Jim Jarmusch film. This is an American film, and I think it's very late 90s. I think it came out in like 99, I don't know, somewhere in the like turn of the century. It's either very late 90s or like 2000, 2001, somewhere. I think it was like before the towers came down. So this is like a pre-9/11, but just barely pre-9/11 movie. It is, I believe, set in New York. It has been a few years since I watched it. I need to rewatch it this month. I do have the Criterion Blu-ray. It's another one that's only available on Blu-ray. Les Samurai is available on 4K, and you better get it on 4K because it looks beautiful. You better not get that shit on Blu-ray. Get that shit on 4K. But Ghost Dog, not available on 4K yet, but you can get the Blu-ray for probably like 20 bucks in the sale. So it is definitely a film well worth your time and well worth 20 bucks. It's a Jim Jarmusch, like I said, so if you're a fan of Jarmusch, then automatically that's got to go in the cart. It's also starring Forrest Whitaker, you know, another very like well acclaimed actor who's done a ton of great stuff, a ton of great work. So Ghost Dog is going to be definitely a different take on the samurai stuff. This one's a little bit more directly, like he wields a katana. He does consider himself almost a modern day samurai, more directly than Jeff's character in Les Samurai. In Ghost Dog, he definitely does sort of take on a little bit more directly the trappings. I mean, he doesn't dress like a samurai. This is modern day, or then modern day New York, after all. So he dresses like a man who lives in then modern day, like late 90s New York. But at the same time, he does wield a katana, and he trains pigeons on his rooftop, and he does kind of live more directly by a samurai code and aesthetic. He really does, I think, adopt the aesthetic, I think, a little bit more directly. So definitely two interesting films. I wanted to include Les Samurai and Ghost Dog so that you'd also get an idea of how samurai films weren't just kind of contained in this Japanese national cinema history, but then also they did go global, and they were global even at the time. I mean, I think Seven Samurai in the 54 was released here in the United States. So these Japanese films were not just important within the Japanese national cinema, but were important internationally and did influence filmmakers. I mentioned Tarantino as well. He doesn't have anything in the Criterion Collection, but you know, you can watch Kill Bill and you can see how Hong Kong cinema of the 70s and 80s influenced that, and how samurai films of the 60s and 70s influenced that. And so I did want to include these other Western films to show how the idea of the samurai film has then pervaded world cinema, how it really took its position on the world stage by influencing other cinemas in other decades. So anyway, I hope that you guys will find something on this list to your liking. If you don't, the knee-jerk reaction is to blame me. And I want to feel bad. If you DM me and you say, I bought all the movies on your list, on your stupid video, and I hated all of them, they were all terrible, you gave me bad recommendations, and I want to fight you over it. I think the initial feeling on my part would be, I feel bad. I just made this person spend hundreds of dollars on Criterions, and he hated them. I would feel bad initially. But then the second wave of emotion would flow over me, and I would remember, wait a minute, I got good taste in movies. I made good recommendations. That shit ain't on me. If you don't like none of these movies, you need to get your head checked, okay? You need to go see a therapist if you don't like any of the movies on this list. You're the one who maybe you need a different hobby altogether. Because if you watch all the movies on this list and you're like, I don't like any of them, maybe you just don't even like movies, dog. Maybe you should get into books. Coloring books. Go buy a coloring book if you don't like any of the movies on this list is what I'm trying to say. Go buy Samurai Jack coloring book. How about that? Samurai July. Go buy a Samurai Jack coloring book and color that shit in if you don't like any of these movies, because that ain't all me anymore, all right? I just shared my good taste with you, and you got to at least pretend to like it. Anyway, These people I don't pretend to like. I do not pretend to like these people at all. I like them for real. For real, for real. Anyway, I also love you if you're still watching this video. If you've made it this far, you're my Samurai July. Anyway, I'm gonna go watch a samurai movie. I'm gonna go watch somebody get cut in half now. And I hope you guys do the same. Go order some shit from Criterion from Amazon. Go save some money, okay? Go save some dough this month. And I'll see you guys on the next video where I inexplicably continue to talk about samurai even though it gets me no views. And I love you. Peace. I'm out.
You are physically repulsive, intellectually retarded, you're morally reprehensible, vulgar, insensitive, selfish, stupid. You have no taste, a lousy sense of humor, and you smell.